really kept a good, she handled most of the books. And then I did the buying and the research and the merchandising, or she did merchandising. I helped train the sales force. We had great salespeople. In fact, 3 of the people that work for me still work at the shop. I've got some really great salespeople that we trained that work out on the West Coast up in Seattle. And a lot of those people over the years that worked for us for 23 years are still in business. I loved it, man. I loved the backpacking. I loved the climbing. And then things changed with the automobile accident. But business is fun, man. Business is fun.
So would you say there's another profession out there that you would like to attempt?
Well, you asked me some great questions. There's, I like the storytelling. I have, when you're assaulted the way I was assaulted, it's something very uncomfortable to think about or to talk about. And what's interesting with males is 1 out of 5, by the time they're 18, that kind of stuff happens to them. And for females, it's even worse. It's 1 out of 3 by the time they're 18. And I have a program that got me back from the abyss, and I call it the blindfold experiment. And it's kind of a unique presentation for addressing sexual assault and sexual abuse. And it's all about personal integrity and honesty. And one of these days, I'd kind of like to go on the road and tell that story. I have a website that I've kind of put together. It's a Wix website.
Uh-huh.
And I'm trying to, I have put together a program. It's a 7-step process that worked for me. I went through cognitive behavioral therapy to get over the trauma of the brain injury from the automobile accident. Mm-hmm. And then I actually use CBDs, cannabidiols, hemp-based pharmaceutical treatment to help heal the neurons in the damaged part of my brain. I mean, in 2012, 13, I had a hard time putting together even coherent sentences. And, so I think that story would be an interesting one to tell, and how assault like that affects you during your life and how you live this double life. It's excruciating. And, I think that it's a story of resiliency, and I'd like to tell that story. So to answer your question, you got me going. I had a cup of coffee before you called me, but I, maybe one day I join a bunch of other gifted speakers to talk about their journeys back, and maybe we can empower people to get over things like that.
Sure. Wow, that's a powerful story.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't imagine what I would do in your position.
Yeah, my dad was an Army, he was an Army guy, and things like that, guys don't talk about it.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, we talk about post-traumatic stress, and we talk about disassociation, but I split when I was 11 years old. And on one side, there was this confident, happy-go-lucky overachiever who was very personable and liked people, and still does. And then on the other side, there was this dark guy that, you hear the story of low self-esteem and constantly going out of his way to take care of everybody but himself. Classic story.
Sure.
And then it took a brain injury, a concussion, and an automobile accident for all of those 40 years of anguish to come out. And within 2 years, my wife had filed for divorce. Business got sold. I was in a tailspin. That was an interesting year in 2015. And, my mother-in-law got hurt. My wife was an only child, so she had to separate. And it put a stop on this divorce. And then in the meantime, through a lot of patience and love and perseverance, I would manage to save my marriage. And here we are building a global company. So the universe does work if you allow it to. But you have to look at that person in the mirror, and you have to come clean. And you have to say, you know what? Whatever's happened to me in my life that was a traumatic event, that particular one was not my fault. And, you have to forgive yourself, and you have to forgive others. And that was one of the toughest things to do, was to forgive that person. And then then start the healing process. And it's it's different for everybody. I can remember my therapist looking at me kind of smiling like on week 4, and I'm like, Cheryl, what are you smiling at? And she says, you know what, John, I'm smiling because you're doing the work.
Yeah.
You're doing the tough work to make yourself better. And, we're all works in progresses. We all have lost loved ones. Some people have been through financial ruin. Some people have been assaulted. Some people have witnessed things in combat that they don't like to talk about. And, how we deal with them, how we cope with them all comes with personal responsibility and realizing that some of the things that our brains make up just aren't true. So it's a process. I don't think you're ever fully cured by events like that. And I read the book, The Evil Hours, which is the history of post-traumatic stress. And there's a section in there where he says that anybody that's really been traumatized at that, at that molecular level, you never really fully get over it. But you're constantly working on it.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to ever live a good life, man, you can't operate there 24/7.
No, I mean, you can't let those things. I don't think you can let those things define you. It's something that's part of you, but it can't define you. I would think.
And that's tough sometimes because when your mind's playing tricks on you like that, it takes a lot of work. We've all heard about mindfulness, meditation, and all this, but 7,000 years of a modality can't be wrong.
That's true.
Live in the moment. And I can't change the past, but I can tell you this: the guy that did that must have been in a worse spot than me to try to do that to another human being.
Yeah, that's a good outlook on that. That's a very good outlook. What would you say? And you've mentioned several things that I would define as strengths that you have, but what would you say is your greatest strength?
I would say it's my love of people and my resiliency. Getting back up and doing it again. And you fall down 7. What's the old Chinese proverb? You fall down 7, you get up 8. So I'd say resiliency.
Okay. And, the flip side of that, what would you say is your greatest weakness then?
Patience.
I hear you.
I'd like to see the world change tomorrow, but it's tough.
I used to think I was very patient, but then I discovered how patient I'm not over time. So
it's so true, man. James, I'm telling you, it's patience. I want it now. But we're very blessed and we got so much to be grateful for. And this, man.
Sure.
And America's still the leader of the world, the leader of the free world.
Mm-hmm.
We have so much, we have a legacy, it's when you talk about legacy, what a legacy, man, the United States of America. And all of our ancestors came here for something better. Mm-hmm. And they worked their tails off to put guys like you and me in the positions that we're in.
Right.
And I can never forget that. I would be doing a great disservice to my grandparents who didn't even speak English, but came here to be American. Mm-hmm. And, when your granddad works 37 years in an open steel foundry, an open hearth, man, what a tough guy. And to raise, 7 kids and 4 of them served, 3 of them in World War II. And my dad served, he was peacetime guy, but that's a legacy that I'm part of. And I can never forget that.
Yeah. So, a lot of us have that special place that we go to for our ideas, and we get our best ideas in that particular spot. Where would that place be for you? Nature or what?
I'd say in the great outdoors. There's something very spiritual about nature. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, James, I get a lot of joy from my little Jack Russell Terrier. I watch her and I see how she looks at things, and you can actually, if you observe nature, you can come up with a lot of cool creative ideas. And nature's smart, animals are smart, and it's interesting. There's so many examples out there. There's always something bigger than you that can eat you. Yeah. But also, if you can figure it out, you can figure. The solutions are inside of every one of us. So I would say nature. I find a lot of my inspiration from the great outdoors. And reading people's biographies. I love historical figures. Ulysses S. Grant's memoirs. I mean, phenomenal read. that guy was basically washed out when they sent him to California, and he ends up, rewriting the history books and creates the whole new concept of the modern war. And, but even, all of them. I just finished Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power, and even Hackworth, About Face, and, all these great people that have a different slice of life, and to see what other people have gone through inspires me. So I'd say nature and biography.
Yeah, I certainly can understand the nature one, because that's where a lot of my ideas come from. If I'm outdoors and even just sitting in a chair under a tree, watching the big hairy dog run around, do his thing, ideas pop up in your head.
Isn't that? Yeah, they do. So, and there's something very soothing about that too. One of the greatest things I used to like when we go mountain climbing is just being out there in tough conditions, and realizing too, learning things. And we know this from the Army, that teamwork, being on a rope team on a glacier with 30 knot winds is it'll test you. And
Sure.
There's nothing I like better than being out there and being tested, because life's going to test you. Nature certainly will. Life will too.
Yeah. Yep. You have a point there. So, what is something some fact about you that nobody really knows that's true?
I write poetry.
Really?
Yeah. Started writing poetry probably in the 6th or 7th grade, and I've got thousands. I write all the time. I've got thousands of poems. Usually they're about either love and romance or some noble figure. So either you're either a lover or you're a hero, and nothing's published. It's just for my own consumption. But those kinds of things. And then I recently picked up a guitar. At 58 years old, I bought an acoustic Taylor, and I've got an American Stratocaster, and I'm tooling around and noodling with the guitars and electric, acoustic, and I'm having a lot of fun, and it's good brain food.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I have a guitar. It collects dust. No, I haven't.
You have one? You're playing the guitar?
No, I play. I think I know 2 chords so far. So I say it literally collects dust.
Yeah, so that's been a lot of fun, and I what's been really interesting too is I feel like since that, this is kind of, when that story came off of my shoulders, I felt like a great weight was lifted.
Sure.
And I feel the most authentic that I've ever felt in my entire life. And I'm really, because of that reason, I'm really meeting some class, authentic people. And I'm being able to relate to people in a more human way, rather than before, I could box people out because I could just shut off. I could be that person that just wasn't honest with himself, so why be honest with others?
Right.
And it used to just crush me, because there were so many times in 40 years that I wanted to tell somebody, but I couldn't. And now I feel like, like you told me, James, just a little while ago, those things don't define you, and I'm learning they don't. And it's nice to be able to talk to people in a more human way than in a way that's not necessarily authentic.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good way of sort of winding up the Q&A part this afternoon. Is just on that note that you have some real strength that I think a lot of people could be inspired by, and I think that they could really learn a lot from what you're doing. So if you can give us maybe some ways that they can follow you, either social media, websites, contact information, so that people can stay in touch with you and just be able to plug into the things you've got going on.
Well, thank you for that. You can find my company. It's www.greenzonehero.com. We're an online community of veteran and military friendly businesses, and we connect people with businesses that honor freedom. My email address is john@greenzonehero.com. I'm also on Facebook, John Krotec, Krotec. Task Force Zen is not out yet. We do have a holding page at taskforcezen.com.
Okay.
We also have Straight Out of Combat podcast series.